Hi guys, herzlich willkommen zum Kraftclub Podcast. Here today I got an English speaking guest, my very first English speaking guest. We got Myburgh on the podcast, better known as Tumblr Jar 4 times, then with his own programming and his own box. He's the owner of CrossFit Debrecen and he's doing Explore the Movement. Jar, it's a pleasure to have you here again. Thank you, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
So, um, you have been around for quite a while in the CrossFit scene, and you got a background as a professional gymnast. Would you introduce yourself a bit and how you got from gymnastics into CrossFit?
Yeah, it's quite a journey actually. So I originally grew up in South Africa, where I went to school, finished high school, then was not quite in the mindset of studying yet or going to university or varsity or college or anything like that. So I went full on into professional gymnastics, as you mentioned. At that time we had a French coach that was flown in from France, and we were literally eat, sleep, breathe gymnastics. 3-4 sessions a day, high intensity, and I have to be honest and say that our performance probably doubled on that time. And then about 6 months before the World Games, I ended up breaking my right ankle.
Oh man.
I didn't know it was broken actually. I just kind of fell on the ankle, and I took 2 weeks off, strapped the ankle, had a Voltaren injection, trying to get, the inflammation down, slept with ice and, whatever I thought was really good at that time. 2 weeks later, started training again. Very slowly, of course, very, progressively.
Actually smart than when you went from
Well,
an injury.
I think the smart thing would have been to go get an X-ray, which I never did. But yeah, so then I trained like that, and I trained for probably another 5 months or so with that. I had 0 ligaments on the ankle on the lateral side. So I didn't know it. I didn't know what tests to do. And at that time, I literally strapped the ankle so thick that I couldn't move it just to be able to perform. Then went to World Games, didn't really perform as well at all. Performance just decreased because you're injured. So then got it operated in South Africa with a terrible doctor. Ankle was quite never the same. Then moved to England, specifically London, where I was going to continue the gymnastics with a friend that owns a club there. Rehabilitation took longer than I thought, never got back into gymnastics. So now I'm kind of 18 years old, 19 years old, at the position of, okay, I should be in my peak right now. What am I going to do? Am I going to make a living off it, or is this the end? So I kind of had these two scales, and I had to make a decision where it's like, okay, that's it. That's gymnastics done. So then, obviously, like a lot of people do, I kind of rebelled against the world of fitness. I was like, oh, if I can't do gymnastics, I can't do anything. That kind of lasted for like 3 months of rebelling and trying to get my social life back in order. I found myself back in the gym again, started doing a little bit of Olympic lifting, fell in love with that. And just in a Globo gym, got kicked out of the Globo gym because I dropped the weights. And then I was like, okay, if I want to do this, I need to do it properly. So I went to a weightlifting course. And this was held by a guy who's actually a good friend of mine now, BJ Rule. His wife is one of the master Nike trainers. So fantastic guy, and he introduced me into weightlifting. And when we finished with it, he said I looked like a little clock off in my setup technique, which at that time meant a lot because it
was
was
really
quite, he
big.
was quite my hero, and I knew only one lifter, and that was clock off. And he's still a hero of mine today. And then he mentioned, look, there's a club right across where you live, right across the river. Why don't you just go there and try it out? And this club was CrossFit Thames. So I went to CrossFit Thames with the intent of only doing weightlifting. And when I walked through the doors, I met the owner, Jami Tikkanen. He was the owner of CrossFit Thames with his business partners. And he was like, gymnastics, great, used to gymnastics, good mover, let's get you into CrossFit. And kind of the rest is history for myself. I think I was there for about 2.5 years or so. And then I started studying in between as well, sports therapy. And I always wanted to do physiotherapy. Sports therapy was good. It was kind of like exercise science, but it just wasn't enough for me at that time. Dealing with injuries, dealing in the past with injuries, dealing with clients' injuries. And at that time I was already, coaching CrossFit and also personal training and, working with athletes, trying to transform them. And I decided I want to do physio. So I started looking up into physio in the UK, but it was quite hefty, especially for an international student. So you're looking anywhere. If you want to study physio in the UK for a UK resident, that time it was in the region of like 3,000 to 4,000 per year. And if you're an international student, it's 12,000 per year. So that was out of the question. And then I was like, why am I limited to the UK? Why not look at the rest of Europe? My wife being Hungarian, I was like, okay, let me look at Hungary. So I looked at Hungary. They said, yeah, we have a physiotherapy program. Great university. Do you have it in English? Yeah, they have it in English. And then, did my honors in physiotherapy here in Hungary while I was studying, opened the box. In between all of this, started working for the program then. Worked for the program for 2.5, almost 3 years, if I'm correct, if I think back now. Did the gymnastics programming for them. And then started my own, Explore the Movement online programming, which is now going on 2 years or going on 3 years almost.
3 years, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. So it's only upwards and onwards from here. But yeah, that's the short, which wasn't too short at the moment, but that's a short story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you did gymnastics programming for the program, even though you were introduced to Jami Tikkanen, who was running the training plan, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I guess, it's different times and different times of your life that, I was with the intention of, when I left the UK, I was with the intention of like, CrossFit was great right now, but I'm going to kind of start a new adventure. And I did, to a degree, I did. When I got to Hungary, I started working a lot with Ido Potel, to train a lot with him, and I did online coaching with him for a period of time, and I learned a lot there. I have to be honest, I learned a lot. Some stuff I liked, some stuff I didn't. I kind of took what I wanted and discard what I didn't want. And with the conjunction of having this kind of like medical studies at the moment, it was good. And then the program contacted me going, hey, are you up to teach or program for the program? And at that time I was already programming for various online athletes, mostly in the States at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I need to think about it because of at that time, you know, I'm running a gym at the moment. I'm studying at medical university. I just had a child born, so a lot on the plate. So a day later or 2 days later, I said, "Yeah, sure, let's go for it. You know, let's do it." And yeah, it was just upwards from there. I mean, it was a great opportunity from John and the program, and I had an awesome time working there. I really did.
I bet so. Um, you said you're doing a lot of online programming stuff, and I know that you were one of the first ones, even before the big online programmings like the training plan, for example, came that popular. You're working with athletes around the world right now, and you already made the one or other go to the games. So, what do you think differentiated the recreational CrossFitter from a games athlete?
Um, I think it's a specific type of mindset, to be honest. There, we were, funny enough, I was talking to one of my students about this, that what differentiates us as the person, just like me and you, seeking to push harder, lift more weight, want to get a better snatch, want to get a better clean and jerk, want to be able to do full planche or whatever your goal is, even if it's rowing. He specifically was, he came from a background of rowing. And most of the people in junior that we competed with or that we were in sports team with, most of my friends are at this moment overweight, living an unhealthy lifestyle. Whereas I think as soon as you pass that middle school, high school area,
The
that
temptation.
differentiates you. Yeah, that differentiates you with, okay, I'm gonna A, only do this just to move and be fit a little bit, or I'm going to do this to go, okay, I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna do it right. There's no halfway in between. And I think the more you coach, the more the field gets differentiated.
Yep.
I mean, I remember my first ever client. Um, I still remember her name actually. Her name was Anne. And this was, I don't know how many years ago, probably like 15 years ago now. She came to me when I was a personal trainer, and she was like, "Look, I want to get fit because I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro." And I was like, "I'm your man. Let's go." And as it progresses, you know, your caliber of person, I'm not going to say caliber of athlete, but caliber of person that comes to you becomes different. It's not just anymore about, okay, recreational CrossFitter at the moment. It's recreational CrossFitter that has been doing CrossFit for, let's say, 3, 4, 5 months and go, you know, I found a niche here. I actually like this. I want to see how far I can push my body. And then that conversion happens. We always have, and as you know, we always have this two schools of thought is like, do you do CrossFit or do you compete in CrossFit?
Yep.
CrossFit as a healthy lifestyle and as a exercise regime is fantastic, fantastic. You know, it gets people off the couch. It gets people to move. It works on mobility. It works on strength. You know, and all of these factors are equally, you know, associated with longevity.
Yep.
Then you have CrossFit as a sport. Just like any other sports, it has positives and it has negatives.
Of
You know?
course, there's some risk involved when you do compete in
Exactly.
sports. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. If you're going to push the body, end up breaking an ankle before the World Games. But that's kind of, you know, I think that mindset is definitely something that distinguishes the difference between the two.
So it takes a lot of hard work in between with yourself.
Yeah. You got to ask yourself the question. Most people know the exercise, or not the exercise, but the workout Fran. 21, 15, 9. Thrusters and pull-ups. Are you the person that are going to break the 15s? Yes or no?
That's a lovely quote. Yeah.
It's painful, it's hard. But you in that moment, you got to know, okay, if I break the 15s, maybe I'm going to be over 3 minutes.
Yep.
If I don't, who knows, 2:30, 2:45, maybe less. I don't even know what the world record in Fran is right now, but
I guess
it's
around
painful.
157 or kind of.
It's insane. It
Yeah.
gets so fast.
Yeah.
It's so fast.
That's really nice. Let me hear your opinion about implementing your background as a physiotherapist and as a former gymnast into your training. Because I guess it's very interesting when you got another background than just CrossFit or just weightlifting or just endurance sport and transfer into CrossFit, which will lead to the big question: strict before kipping, why not?
Mm-hmm. Okay, that is a big question. There's
Yeah.
a lot, and I don't think it's the easiest answer. Let me answer the first part. So the first part, how does it affect coming from a gymnastics background and studying physio into programming and working with athletes? So this question is actually asked at the right time, because now we're at a position where everybody's coming out of quarantine.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't have opportunity to go to a gym. They were doing a little bit of home workouts. So everybody's highly motivated now to get into the gym and go, hey, I'm going to pump it hard. I'm focused. Let's go. And then they move up intensity, they move up volume at the same time. Recipe for disaster. You're gonna get something hurt. It's too much too soon. So in that approach, it's good to know that, okay, these specific type of behavioral patterns could lead to a few things. So for instance, on the online programming, on Explore the Movement, we educate on these things. Go slower, focus on these things, work towards your capacity right now that you can recover and be able to come into the gym tomorrow and have a good session again. It's not about just coming in, killing yourself right today, and then tomorrow you're so kaput that you can't do anything for 3 days after. There's no progress in that. So the physio has kind of opened your mind into those different, type of aspects. A big thing in CrossFit are the overuse injuries. Overuse injuries are very, very common in CrossFit. And so the physio part of it helped me to realize and identify these type of situations a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. And the gymnastic part of it helped to kind of educate form of, okay, gymnastics is a massive awareness of, where your body is in space and time. I'm not saying the others aren't, but you have to learn how to move your body weight in space and time. So that relative strength is incredibly important. I'll say this, that the other factor is that most people do not know how to manipulate the body in order to stay progressively overloaded in gymnastics. They know, okay, I need pull-ups, dips, and kind of then it stops there. And now what happens then? Oh, you add more weight. Okay, yeah, this is great, but to a specific part. You can only go so far, and then it becomes counterproductive. So gymnastics has definitely taught me how to use the best exercises that transfer to a whole series of other exercises, instead of you going to do 10 exercises where you can do one exercise and then it transfers to many other things. An example, I hardly make my athletes do handstand walk as a skill, because I see it as an unnecessary movement. I see it as a time waster. You could be using that time practicing the skill to be actually recovering. If you learn how to do a proper handstand, a handstand walk is child's play. It's easy. Obstacle walk is easy. You don't have to go learn how to do an obstacle walk. You can already control your time. So rather spend that time developing your handstand than going, oh, okay, I have to practice a handstand walk because I can't do handstand walk. No, that's counterproductive. It's like, I want to be able to do Olympic weightlifting. Let's go do leg extensions. Yeah, the two. Yeah. So that brings us to the question of this big debate that's going on here. Which one's better, kipping or strict? Which one should come before which one? Should you be able to do strict, or should you be able to do strict before kipping? And the answer, I personally think, is not that easy. And I'll tell you why. Because there are many situations where you can get people that can do kipping before they can do strict. But that doesn't make the kipping wrong. And the argument usually is, but oh, they don't have enough strength to control. Okay, that's a good point. They don't have enough strength to control. But is it actually bad for the body? Is it actually bad for the shoulders? Now, we do know that the most common injury in CrossFit is the shoulder. We have to state that mostly it's impingement and slap tears. So we have to look at why this is happening. But we can't blame the kipping pull-up or the butterfly pull-up or the chest to bar pull-up. Because personally, I don't believe in bad movement. I don't believe that bad movement exists at all. I do believe that unprepared tissues exist. 100%. If your tissue and the capacity of your tissues, meaning soft tissue, collagen, ligaments, tendons, retinaculums, the kind of white stuff, if they're not prepared for the movement, something's going to give. If the load exceeds the capacity of your tissues, something's going to give. But if the capacity of your tissue is better than the load or higher than the load, you have no problem. Like I give you an example, a very good example. I have never done wrestling in my life before, but I know that wrestlers lie on their back, then they lift their hips off the floor and they press themselves up by their head. Is this good or bad? Well, it's subjective. Yep. So for the wrestler, it's fantastic because he will be in that situation when he wrestles. Yep. His neck needs to be super strong. If I do it, I probably end up breaking my neck or something because my tissues are not prepared for it. So I think we beg to answer the question of which one's better? Should I be able to do strict or kipping at the same time? Yes, both of them are right and both of them are wrong, but it becomes very subjective.
Yep.
When you have grandma coming in through the door, she's 80 years old. She's like, I want to do CrossFit because I want to get fitter. Am I going to teach grandma how to do kipping pull-ups? Well, maybe, maybe not. Let's see. Grandma, can you hang on that bar? Yes, I can hang, but it feels really uncomfortable. Okay, assisted hang. And we can start working on strength because we know strength is equal to longevity. And then we can, get more elasticity in the body by doing a little bit of swings, a little bit of beat swings, or maybe she can go active, passive. And then slowly we want to get her to maybe hang with one arm, and build it up and build it up and build it up. Is strict pull-ups going to give us that elastic ability? No, it's not. It's not. It's the same as, okay, I can squat 200 kilos, but can I do a backflip? Yes, you're strong, but will that elasticity prepare you for it?
Mm.
It's two different things. We hear very often about powerlifters. Powerlifters lift incredible amounts with their backs, you know, deadlift and squat. And then they reach into the car, try to get the baby seat out for their kid, and they pull their back. Why? Because strength is a vector. It has amplitude, it has direction. It changes constantly. You can never move in the same movement pattern ever. That whole idea about kind of, you know, greasing the movement pattern, greasing the groove. It's a great theoretical concept. Practically, it never ever happens. Show me one person that snatches 2 consecutive snatches that looks exactly the same.
Yeah, it's not possible.
Weight in the foot, bar path, where the bar positions overhead, the way that he's breathing, the way that it doesn't. But does it mean that, you know, both are right or wrong? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that your margin of error becomes smaller. And it's the same with this. So am I kipping or am I strict? Well, you can practice both, but your margin of error is going to become smaller. So margin of injury.
It's a very interesting point. Thank you for that. So you went to the games. How was it to be there as a coach? I guess it's very stressful, even for on a coach's side. Stressful for the athlete as well. But I guess if the coach-athlete relationship is very good and you got a really good communication, that the athlete can, in quotes, drop a lot of stress on the coach, so that the athlete can focus on performing at their best. How do you see this?
Yeah, the games are stressful, and in its right, it should be. I mean, it is the top of the top, and I do feel that it is the responsibility of the coach to take on the majority of stress that the athletes have. You know, whatever's on your mind, let's talk about it. Let's get it off. Let's deal with it. Let's see what situations we can. But I do feel that there's a little bit of stress that the athletes should have, because it keeps you on your edge. It keeps you on your toes. It needs to be there. I mean, our preparation for the games started years before we actually went to the games. You know, I remember sitting down in my gym and asking, what do we want to do? What do we want to do? Do we want to go to the games, or where's our target? Where's our goal? And once we've established that, we figured out, okay, what are the limiting factors that's not going to get us in the games? And we started working on those limiting factors. Every month, working progressively over and over and over. And then once you get to the games, you kind of should be in a position where, like, you know, I feel prepared at the best of my ability right now. And then, you know, techniques that we dealt with it, we did a lot of visual meditation. I did a lot of visual meditation with them, trying to visualize of how they will succeed and what mindset they will feel while they're in that position. Once that, you know, timer goes 3, 2, 1, go, and it's go time. Because if I learned anything from my personal gymnastics background, it's that back then I didn't pay enough attention to the psychological side of things. And I try to focus on that more, because it is extremely important.
Yeah.
Extremely important. Yeah. But yeah, it's stressful, but in a good way, because you can convert that stress into positive things.
Yeah, I bet so. Yeah, with the psychological aspects, I guess a lot of people neglect this or underestimate the outcome out of that, because
Mm.
if your body is prepared to snatch 200, I don't know, but your mind is just not right, you will not even come close to 180.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think both me and you have experienced that. When you stand behind the bar, you look at the bar and you go, shit, I'm not going to make this lift.
Yeah.
You've lost it already then.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. Very true.
So, what do you think for people to, what's the most important thing to people to work on when they got the background as a ordinary European sportsman? So, I guess because in Europe, endurance-based sports are more popular. So let's say swimming and so for the western part of Europe, I guess, swimming, playing football or soccer and handball and all of that stuff. Do you think those people need to work on their strength even more than, for example, let's have an athlete from the States who has been playing football or baseball, who's already very explosive and strong?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it becomes very regional, um, depending on those backgrounds, because it's true, Europe is very predominant in endurance sports, and the States, the NFL guys are strong. They are strong. What I've found in Europe, for people starting off CrossFit, they don't have a big problem with their engines in the workouts, but as soon as it comes to gymnastics, it's a drop off, because most people can squat to a degree, most people can deadlift to a degree, snatch and clean and jerk. Now we're moving into more, okay, mobility, big issue, big issue. Uh, the K-Star, Kelly Starrett, has done some great things on that. Um, I feel there is more development needed in that area. I think the understanding of how you obtain and train mobility, I think it's a little bit, there's a little misconception there. So I do think that people need to educate themselves a little bit more, because it's not just simply, one or the other. There are many different types of situations and techniques that you need to use in order to get certain relief. But I do feel gymnastics, and I'm not just saying this as a biased opinion because I come from a gymnastic background, but most people that come to me have problems in that area. Like, okay, I'm struggling. I get to 12 ring muscle ups and then I just get stuck. So then we'll look at things like, okay, let's assess. Show me the video, or, tell me what's your problem. Is it the capacity? Do they have a problem with capacity? Is it technique? Do they need to change technique? Is it this? Is it that? Is it? So we start looking at these small little aspects, and then we change these aspects. So let's take weightlifting, for instance. I can't snatch more. Okay, why can't you snatch more? I don't know. Send a video, let's have a look at it. Okay, is it strength? Can't you stand up with a bar? If you can't stand up with a bar, your leg strength needs to be developed.
If you get an issue to stand up a snatch, you get your real problems.
You got big problems. Yeah, you got a squat. The coach of the Singaporean weightlifting team, he always said, I'll start you off with twice a week. By the end, when we're working together, you'll squat every day. And it's true. Leg strength does not need to be an issue. You have to be able to stand up. You're competing in the clean and jerk and the snatch. You're not competing in the back squat. You're not competing in a deadlift. clean jerk snatch. So you have to be able to stand up. Okay, why can't you snatch more? Is it because you can't actually get into the position? Is it thoracic mobility? Is it shoulder mobility? Is it internal or external rotation in the hips? Is it the ankles that can't? Is it the knee? Are you coming back from an ACL injury maybe? What's wrong there? Okay, is it technique? Are you lifting the bar and the bar is 10 kilometers in front of the body? Obviously, you're not going to lift it then, you know? So we have to develop these different aspects in order to get something better. It's not just about, okay, I'm running with my head into the wall and I keep running and running, because A, it's going to get you nowhere, and B, you're going to end up hurting yourself probably.
Yeah, I noticed a lot that people lack scapular control.
Big,
So
massive. I
I
think
had the
it's
issue on myself, but yeah, noticed
yeah,
this as well.
it's probably one of the most undertrained body parts in the whole fitness community. And that's where gymnastics come in. Weightlifting as well. To a degree, you have to be able to move your scapulas very precise. The scapular position in an overhead position is vital. It's vital. Gymnastics is all about scapular position. If you cannot control your scapulas and you're not strong around the muscles of the scapula, you're not going to get very far.
Yep.
There's 17 muscles that attach to the scapula. And you have to focus, okay, not all 17. I mean, like the omohyoid, it's a small little muscle that runs from the neck that just pulls an artery away. But it's vital that these muscles need to be trained in synergism, not in isolation, in synergism. So yeah, I 100% agree, 100%. And this is a fun fact that this is one of the things we focus on very first when we have beginners in our gym. Scapular control and small things like, okay, can you take your shoulder and can you make a lazy 8 with your shoulder? Most people will stutter because they don't have that scapular control.
Yep.
It's the same thing as you ask somebody that doesn't go to the gym, okay, squeeze your bicep.
Yeah.
They have no idea.
Do it.
They don't know how to do that. They usually say, I'll pull my arm, because then it becomes hard. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I noticed that in CrossFit there's also a lack of muscle, kind of, in the lats, which is very interesting when you look, for example, when you look at the strongman or gymnasts or weightlifters, bodybuilders as well, they get like huge lats. They get this nice V taper, and then in CrossFit it's more like a block. So because, of course, of the specific use of the body, and you need to, you can staple the weights better on blocks, but with all the pulling stuff for muscle ups, pull ups, and all of that stuff, yeah, I see a lack in lat development. So because when we both know that you can upscale ring rows too, but usually when you got your first pull-up in a regular CrossFit gym, you will never ever do ring rows again. So
When you say your first pull-up, do you mean strict or kipping?
it depends.
It depends. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. But it's true what you said, that you can stack weight better on blocks. Look at powerlifters, look at weightlifters. They have thick cores.
Yeah.
Look at calisthenics guys that don't lift, external loads. They have these tiny waist and these V.
Yeah.
Because they do a lot of strict work, but they also do a lot of keeping work. Calisthenics, they are a lot of keeping work. The thing in CrossFit is, I don't think enough people do strict work, because you have to understand that you don't, Okay, so in CrossFit, it's very important to have lower body maximal strength,
Yeah.
absolute strength. It's very important. Can I lift a big ass number of kilos? Deadlift, squat. But in upper body, have we ever had in CrossFit where it goes, okay, we're going to do a 1 RM ring muscle up?
Nope. Not
So
yet.
it doesn't need to be there. So why train maximal strength in upper body? You need to be training muscular endurance, because what we see is, okay, 50 chest to bar for time. When we're now talking specifically, in the CrossFit world.
Yeah.
Does it mean that doing strict work is going to make it better? Well, it possibly could. But does it mean that if I'm able to do 60 kilograms for 3 reps pull-ups, is that going to allow me to do 25 strict pull-ups?
Probably not.
Probably not, because the one's muscle endurance and the one's kind of an absolute strength. So we need to look at, okay, why do we have these big backs in calisthenics? They do a lot of strict work. They have that constant, eccentric, concentric movement in the muscle. That's not saying that in CrossFit we don't, but in CrossFit we keep majority of the time in gymnastic movements. It is changing a little bit with the strict handstand push-ups we're seeing now. And the reason for this kipping is made to make movements more efficient.
Yep.
Efficient in the sense of easier, so that I can do more repetitions. I say this in all of my seminars. For kipping butterfly, kipping bar muscle ups, kipping toes to bar, you don't need a lot of strength, because it's kipping, it's technique. I have a girl in my gym that can do a bar muscle up kipping, but she can't do a strict pull up. Why? Because it's technique.
Yeah.
So I think this is a big reason for it, that, most of the kipping movements, and I'm, kind of generalizing now, most of the kipping movements come from the hip. So that hip action takes away a lot of the strength from the lats.
Yeah, of course. Let's compare this with weightlifting. You won't muscle snatch the same amount as you do in a full snatch.
Exactly. And I mean, your rotator cuff would feel it. But come back to the ring row question. And
yeah.
this is something I talk about quite often, that people emphasize the ring row as a scaled version of the pull-up.
Yeah.
And I can understand where they're coming from, but logistically, it's different. Horizontal pull, vertical pull.
Yeah.
It's different. You activate different things. Is it still a pulling movement? Yeah, sure, it's a pulling movement. Which one do I prioritize for athletes? I prioritize the ring row, not the pull-up. Why? Because the ring row is more beneficial to all the kipping movements than actually the pull-up. If you look at the mechanics of it, I'd much rather make you do a capacity of ring rows than a capacity of pull-ups, because the transfer is so much better.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that the pull-up is not going to get you results, but it might not be as much as you thought it might be.
Yeah, when you train the pull-up, you're just improving your pull-ups. When you train ring rows, you're improving your ring rows, your pull-ups, even though your muscle-ups as well.
Yeah. But like I said earlier, I mean, let's take the ring row, for example. In the position of the kipping chest to bar, when you're actually doing the pull phase after you've kipped,
yeah,
your arm is here. You're in this position here. You're not in this position here. You're not arms up. You're not doing a vertical pull. You're doing a horizontal row. So that vector that we talked about, amplitude, and that's backwards with the elbows. That's not down. And that again comes scapular control, and all the stuff we've listed. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, this is a small aspect of gymnastics now. There's so many other things. Don't even get me started on how, you know, they teach the strict ring muscle up. Just, yeah. Anyway.
Let's skip this.
Yeah, let's skip that, because that'll be another hour.
Another episode.
Yeah,
Really
exactly.
on the strict muscle up. What do you want to see within the next games? I mean, at the moment it's quite difficult because of the situation of that stuff, but we have seen a huge development in the loads which are used. I guess when I started 2012 with CrossFit, were like godlike with a 100 kilo snatch.
Yeah, then you were the man.
Yeah, you can't, and nowadays you can't even compete if you can't cycle it.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, if you don't snatch now between 110 and 120, you have no business. You know,
Yeah.
you have. I think it was Janikowski did a workout the other day where I think it was 400-meter run, 5 or 6 power snatches with 100, and then some more work, and then it's just a regular workout now. You know, it's. What do I want to see? I want to see. So, okay, at the games we've had now, can you do more repetitions? Let's take an example. Randy, 75 snatches. How far can we push that? We can make him do 100 snatches. What's the point in that?
Yeah.
You know, we can make him lift more weight. Cool, okay, we're getting stronger, capacity is increasing, you know. Weightlifting, we're starting to see big 1RMs. At the games, we saw them lift above 160 for the clean event.
Yeah.
Look at Amanda Barnhart. She
Yeah.
power cleaned 100 like it was nothing.
And
Beautiful
on day three of the games.
Yeah.
So it's under fatigue.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So in weightlifting, we've seen more reps. We've seen, you know, higher. We've seen Murph. We've seen a marathon row. You know, the times are extending. The workload is getting more. In gymnastics, what have we seen? We've seen the handstand walk on an obstacle.
Yay.
That's it.
Yeah.
What I like to see is I would love to see complexity. I would love to see, okay, this year for the games, 5 strict, you know, press to handstand. Or on the rings, a backwards roll.
Yeah.
Or a forward roll for that matter. Yeah. And these are not hard skills. If you have, you know, the capacity and, you know, the prerequisites to it, to learn the skill, it's very easy. It's just that they don't know. A little bit of education and boom. So I would love to see something come out where gymnastics gets challenged a little bit more in complexity, not just, okay, let's do 40 ring muscle ups for time now. Because 30 ring muscle ups is, you know, 3-minute mark, 3 minute and a half, everybody's done.
Yeah.
So where are we going to go? I'd love to see that complexity.
But how would you incorporate these? I guess it's hard to judge for forward roll or backward roll, if it's a rep or no rep.
That's the difficult part, especially with gymnastics, because it's so, you know, is it measurable? Is it repeatable? How are you going to train the judges to actually judge it? Because they have to be familiar with the exercise. I mean, let's say, and I love this would happen, let's say 5 back tucks. I did years ago, I think in 2012 with Carl Pauli, I did a workout which was 5 back tucks, 5 ring muscle ups, and 5 hang power snatches. And this is cool for me. If they at the games could go, okay, back tucks, back somersaults, that's amazing. Because you can measure that. You're on your feet and you land on your feet.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy. Grab your legs, don't grab your legs. You're still going from a standing position upside down into a, you know, standing position again. That will be cool.
Yeah.
but it's difficult to measure it.
Cool. So, Ja, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
It was an honor.
Thanks, man. It's always good to talk to you.
Thank you. And if you guys, thank you for listening. And if you want to get in contact with him, follow him on Instagram at Explore the Movement.
Yes, represent.
Represent Explore the Movement. He has also a very nice strength plan on his website. And yeah, drop him a message and yeah, ask him why you are just weak. Hashtag just weak.
Thanks, man.
So thank you for having you on the podcast.
Thanks, man.